On this episode of Amped Up to 11 podcast, I'm joined by Dr. David Hausmann, a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, athlete, and now amputee advocate whose life changed in an instant. After contracting a rare flesh-eating bacterial infection, Dave died 3 times, lost his leg, and found himself facing a battle far greater than physical recovery. This is not just a story about survival. It's a conversation about identity, resilience, and what happens when the life you've built is stripped away and you're forced to rebuild from the ground up. I'm Rick Bonkowski, and this is the Amped Up to 11 podcast. Hey everyone, this is the Amped Up to 11 podcast. My name is Rick Bonkowski, and we have a very special guest today, Dr. David Hausmann. How are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well, and I appreciate you being here today and, of course, reaching out to me with your incredible story. I was compelled
Thank you.
from the moment I read your first email. And, you know, there's something really special about people like yourself who go through such a huge life change and see their mission in terms of awareness, in terms of education. And of course, coming from the medical community, this is something that was probably part of the spectrum of what you did, you know, just in your professional life. But to take tragedy, to take, you know, what is very much a struggle and see it as a new purpose, something that can, you know, cultivate some really amazing things in the community. I applaud you. And from what I've read and from what I've seen, because you are, you know, kind of making the rounds now. I've caught a few things online. Really authentic stuff. I mean, beautiful,
Thank you.
articulate, you know, just really to the betterment of this particular community, limb loss, limb difference. But there's so much more, you know, I think that you have to offer because of the world that you operated in before what happened to you. And the first thing I want to start with, I think I want you to, not necessarily in clinical terms, but in everyday terms, describe to me what this flesh-eating bacteria was. Like, how does it
Yeah.
happen? What are the circumstances? In your words, you know, like what on earth happened? And we can talk more about, you know, the before and afters and all that stuff, but just starting kicking it off, walk us through, you know, what occurred to you.
Yeah. Thank you. It it's difficult to do without going into crazy detail, but I mean, first of all, it came out of nowhere. And when I mean out of nowhere, like getting hit by a train, super quick. The flesh-eating bacteria part of it, from wife checking me into the ER until them actually discovering that it was in fact flesh-eating bacteria. It was 3.5 hours that it hit from my left ankle all the way up to the knee, and it liquefied all the flesh, all the muscle under the skin. The flesh-eating bacteria releases toxins, causes gas gangrene, these air bubbles and air pockets. And so basically the damage, it happened so fast, the damage was done before they even figured out what it was. And by the time they figured out what it was immediate, take this guy to, immediate debridement surgery. And then I coded at the end of the surgery, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So from my experience, it happened so fast. And then on top of that, I don't remember any of it because of the event, coding, heart stopped. There's the whole DMT, like brain chemical, like end of life journey
Yeah.
that happens. And part of that experience is the brain wipes really traumatic short term memory, which is kind of a gift, kind of a blessing, because it's like if I were to go to the pearly gates, I wouldn't have gone with this traumatic experience. It would have been whatever the most recent pleasant experience was.
And this is you're describing almost like the first death of 3?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah, three.
so talking about, what the body does in that state, right? Because you're dying, you've died, and you know what the human body, what process it goes through, when that occurs, and what was symptomatic um about what was happening on your leg? Like, what did it feel like? In your, do you recall, like, what's
So,
happening to me?
so from my experience leading up to this event occurring and coming out of nowhere, I had a really bad sinus infection that I ended up taking a round of antibiotics for. And for me, rewind, at this point in time, this was September of last year. I was 38, hadn't turned 39, birthday in a couple months, the healthiest I'd ever been in my entire life, peak physical condition, 6'3", uh, 230 pounds, 9% body fat, just chisel shredded. But I hadn't taken a prescription medication since the age of 17.
Mm.
So my entire adult life, I'm functional medicine, chiropractic, teaching thousands of patients how to reclaim, get back to being healthy, but then build and sustain health in their own life. So, living it myself. And then I take this antibiotic and it just destroys my gut. And my only symptom is basically feeling super tired, brain fog, like not really understanding what's going on. And then I'm driving home from my clinic. It's about a 30-minute drive. Halfway on the ride back, I swear I was falling asleep at the wheel. So for me, the experience was tiredness. But what actually was happening is I was losing consciousness. So beneath the surface, there was all kinds of blood levels that were all out of range. So from my experience, I'm falling asleep, but what's actually happening is I was like passing out.
Yeah.
Wife comes to pick me up after I parked the car. And then from her story, she takes me to the ER for losing consciousness. And then 15 minutes after I'm back in the room, I just start screaming out of nowhere, my ankle, oh, my ankle, like just screaming in pain.
And this is
And symptom wise,
burning,
to be honest,
stabbing. What is it?
stabbing, sharp pain, super pulsing, it would come and then disappear.
Mm.
She said I'd be talking regular sentences, trying to explain, my health history to the doctor, totally aware. And then, out of nowhere, screaming. She said I was screaming, it's a 16 out of 10. Ah. And they started doing IV painkillers. And we're talking powerful stuff, morphine, Dilaudid. She said none of it would touch it.
Mm.
So they decided to sedate me. Um, and out of sedation, I'm waking up screaming in pain.
Wow.
So
Yeah, you're feeling as if your leg is being launched into a chipper shredder. It's
yeah, I mean, it's crazy because at the time nobody knew, and even some of the doctors were starting to think this guy's a malingerer. Which in medical world, that's like, oh, he's faking it, like he's mixed up in the head up there. He's got a little screw loose.
yeah.
When in fact it was legitimate. The
And
problem is from the outside you couldn't tell anything. The X-ray that they didn't
so
show any
so at what
issues.
point yeah, and that's, to me, that's just to imagine that would be so baffling. And at what point in this process, um, first of all, is it determined that you're going to have to go through an amputation? But also, when is that revealed to you? Is it post-op? Is it pre-op? When is that?
So 3.5 hours after checking in, they have me down in the IC intermediary ICU. They're waiting for more lab results and stuff back. Still at this point, have no idea what it is. A doctor that had checked out of her shift decided to swing back through and check on one of her patients that was in the bay next to us. That doctor overheard the other doctors in their little panel kind of discussing perplexity of no idea what's going on with this guy. So she peeks in and asks if she can check it out. She comes and looks. By that point in time, I understand there was a little bit of discoloration, excuse me, a little bit of what looked like bruising. She immediately diagnosed it. She's like, this guy's got flesh eating bacteria. Get him back to the OR immediately. So they sent me back to the OR. The the procedure is insane too, because it's like cut as fast as possible, remove necrotic tissue, cut until you get fresh blood. Like literally cut as fast as possible, remove tissue until you get to fresh blood and don't stop. Because they have to get in front of it because it's so aggressive so fast. So they do that. I'm back in surgery. They get it all off my leg, and then I code. So because I coded, they couldn't continue what they were planning on doing, which they did an abdominal CT right before and found there was some on my large intestine as well. So their plan was to get it out of the leg. Abdominal laparotomy is a 16-inch incision, get it off his colon, patch the guy up. Hopefully he survives. But because I coded after they're done with my leg, they couldn't continue. So they're telling my family to prepare because survival rate, with just those things stacked alone, I think is 3%,
Yeah.
something like that. And then miraculously, I end up stabilizing by about 1 a.m. that night, so about 5 hours later. So they bring me back. They do the abdominal. They get it off the colon, confirm it's nowhere else in the abdomen. Then I code a second time. This time they do the needle in the heart because the paddles ain't going to work with guy fully open like that. And at that point in time, that's where every doctor, everybody was convinced this guy's not going to make it. Because when I coded that second time, abdomen all open up, just finished the leg. I went into septic shock, multi-organ failure, liver and kidneys started shutting down. They had put me on, ventilator, continuous dialysis machine, and I was in critical condition. I wasn't even stable. So from there, I believe it was 19, 20 days of basically dude's on life support, coma state, and then I wake up finally. So 20, 21 days after checking into the ER, I wake up.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And when I wake up, that's my recollection. That's my experience. So rewind, call my wife, pick me up. I'm tired. I don't know what's going on. I was really passing out. Park my car, lay my head back on the seat. She's coming to get me. Dark, weird, vivid, all kinds of end of life, DMT, white tunnel, dark room, journey type stuff. Crazy dreams, right? And next thing I know, from my experience, I wake up. Problem is, it's 21 days, 22 days that have passed. My body cannibalized 53 pounds of weight to survive. And I'm laying in a bed, tube in my throat, machines, wires all over the place, so weak I can't even lift my own arms.
Yeah.
I look around, nobody had the gusto to tell me what actually was going on. They're like, oh, you had a little infection. They had to kind of cut some, a little bit of muscle off your leg, but
I'm sorry. I don't mean
they're saying it should be okay.
I don't
So I
mean to
laid there
giggle.
for
It's
four
just like,
days
what?
with a wound vac wrapped around my leg because nobody could actually just like tell me what was going on.
Yeah.
Also, I was so delirious and met it up. I was so confused. So for 4 days, I laid there and wondered what was going on. How bad was my leg? And then finally, they come to change the wound vac. I looked down. That was the first time I saw it. So my
Yeah.
whole leg was still there. Nobody made the decision to amputate it. Next, plastic surgeon consultation. They come in. They basically present me with two options. You have, this road, 13 plus reconstructive surgeries, cut your, latissimus dorsi off, skin graft all the way down your thigh. You get pig ligament in here and all this stuff. But you'll never be able to lift your foot. So I would have had a permanent foot drop and probably pain meds for the rest of my life. And then disfiguring the rest of my body to try and save it. Or they're like, hey, you can just, you can cut it off and start fresh. Of course. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And in that moment, I remember looking down, I'll never forget that, realizing I can't carry what used to be me. I just have to make the decision to cut this and lean fully in and trust. So I did. I told him to take it.
And was some of that decision, which is incredibly difficult to make, um, knowing who you were as a person, knowing, how you described yourself, because I want to rewind for a second and get into how you would describe yourself before this event. Now, let me tether that a bit. How would you describe yourself before that event? But remove your resume, remove your credentials, just
Yeah.
talk about Dave as a man, right?
Hmm.
Um, and for highly professional people like yourself, well accomplished people, obviously someone, that was very much in a thriving professional space. Let's detach from that and say, okay, you made that decision, but if we were to rewind and you were to talk about who you were as a man before this event, how would you describe yourself?
I would have described myself as physically strong, fully capable. Um, if I'm rough around the edges when it comes to showing vulnerability, asking for help, um, anything along those lines, it didn't matter because I could always rely on the fact that I could push through. I could physically overpower. I could rely on my stamina and energy. That this body that I work so hard for, that's where I place the value, right? And it was a huge part of my identity,
And
the identity of
given like your physical prowess, let's call it, and your dedication to your temple, was
yeah.
some of that in the decision making of, yeah, this is, you're going to take this from me, but was there any part of you, was there any voice that said, and you'll overcome?
If I'm being totally honest, the voice inside was that now I'm going to be less than.
Really?
Yeah.
So there was a voice saying, yeah, this is going to take you down a peg.
Yep.
Yeah. And how did that make
Yeah.
you feel?
It was
And
difficult because the painful part of it was the emotional and mental load of this decision that if I cut this off and I amputate moving forward, like I'm never gonna people that love me, people that are rely on me, people that expect things from me are never gonna look at me the same way. They're gonna look at me as less than
yeah,
or incapable or unable to provide.
yeah,
And I think it's because so much of my identity leading up to this was placed in, the physical prowess, as you said.
yeah,
Um, but then, you know, when there's nowhere else to go and you're laying in a hospital bed and there's nobody around to talk to you, and you look at, the window at 3 a.m. in hospital and you see the reflection back, you start to realize you can't run from the reality of the small, still truth voice. And that truth voice was, you're already enough.
yeah,
You are capable.
yeah,
You can do this. Your leg, if it's gone, doesn't make you any less of who you've been.
yeah. And so much of what you're saying is incredibly powerful and very much resonates for myself, because
Really?
there's always that question of, who am I now?
Yeah.
Like, what, I mean, who is this person? And that can come at different points in the process. It can come when you're making that decision. It can come when you sort of catch yourself in the mirror for the first time and
Yeah.
there's something missing, right? Um, but so much of this journey, for so many people I speak to, it's the piece about becoming.
Yeah.
looking at yourself in the now, realizing that that is now baseline, and everything I build beyond this point, that is my becoming. That is my identity. That is, and I don't like to overuse the whole like new normal, because here's the thing, and this is
Yeah.
how I feel, Dave. There's nothing about it that's normal. Okay.
No,
It's just not normal
there isn't.
to be
Not at
missing a
all.
part of your anatomy. I'm sorry. We can sit down with a therapist and we can examine it.
Yeah.
To me, it's not normal. So there is no new normal. It's just learning how to accept the now, because, right, the limbs don't grow back, at least not yet.
Not
And
yet.
I always refer to the idea of day one, right? So
Yep.
what's day one? And this is a theme that we tend to cover a bit. And I always say, well, day one is not the moment you found out that you were going to have an amputation. It's not the day of the amputation, because I see people on socials and they're celebrating their ampuversary and things like that.
Yeah.
And that's fine if that works for you. For me, the day one was the moment that I said to myself, "This is not coming back. This
Yeah.
this is a moment of acceptance, and everything I do from this point forward is going to shape who I am and what I am going to become as a person
Yeah.
now." And it's a coping mechanism for sure. But I think when you feel things deeply and you come from, you know, uh, a successful professional life, and you've put in the time on your body and you're prideful about those things, and they become part of, your energy as a human being, and people know you for that. They're like, yeah, this guy, he's top of his game, he's in great shape,
Yeah.
and he's respected by his colleagues, and people look to him for answers. And then something comes in that in our head goes, yeah, you're not that anymore.
Right.
You're something else. And then we go, okay, but who's in charge of figuring that out for me? And for
Yeah.
me, my day one was realizing, well, it's me. That's who's in charge of figuring that out. And
Yeah. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Right.
no.
And it's interesting listening to you describe that, because the whole day one I could claim is when I looked down and they took the wound back off and I realized, hey, there's not really much of a leg left there to save, right?
Yeah.
So inside, internally, I knew to myself, like, oh, I'm probably better off cutting that thing off.
Yeah.
But in reality, that was not the moment, because I laid in that hospital bed and wrestled with the back and forth decision and the pros and cons, and fought what I knew to be true and the best decision, probably for another 6 or 7 days before I finally was able to get it out and say it out loud. And I would say that is when day one began. Like you said, when I accepted that it's gone and I am moving forward with this decision.
And I would think for you, transitioning from, I mean, let's face it, your past life, let's call it. I mean, you were the expert in the room. That was the role that you played in everyday life. I mean, being in a medical profession, being someone who's respected in that way, and then going from expert in the room, now I'm the patient. So now I'm kind of like on the other side of that equation.
Yeah.
And what adjustments do you feel you had to make to exist in that space?
Well, I mean, I fought it tooth and nail, because if anybody knew me before, the day before, didn't ask for help, didn't show emotion, did everything himself, push through, driver, build, move fast, right? So talk about a reality shift. You have to have, nurses rolling you over to put a bedpan under just so you can go to the bathroom, because you can't even get out of the bed to go.
Yeah.
it was a forced recalibration, and that new reality was a struggle because it did create the internal identity crisis.
Yeah, and there was
Again, that
something.
huge part of the identity before is being able to make up for areas where I knew I really need to work on that part of myself. But it's okay. I don't have to worry about it right now because I can just rely on the physical. I can push through. I can
Yeah,
dominate, right? I can thrive.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So there was a note that I had written down where you said there is a version of the story that fits neatly into inspiration, and this isn't that version. What part of the story do you think people usually miss?
Quite simply, the part of the story that people miss is the internal conflict and the mental battle and war that takes place. What they see instead is the highlight reels, right? And I'm guilty of it. I think I have one up on my page that shows stepwise progression because that's what the world celebrates because it's the easiest for them to grab onto and understand. You see this person that loses a leg and then they keep pushing and taking the next step and taking the next step. And then in a 1 minute clip, they see kind of like the outside, right? The physical of what took place. But every single one of those steps, my God, you talk about like rebalance, learning how to rewalk. That's all cool. But every time you take a step, trusting something you can't feel, right? Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
But then also knowing that every step that I take, in theory, is going to make that next step just a little bit easier.
yeah.
It's it's like the universe meets you at the depth of your surrender, not at the height of your struggle,
Oh, that's so true.
right?
Oh, absolutely. No, that's so
It's
true.
it's just fully trusting that's half of it, but then acting on it, and then having to act on it again, and then again, and then again. That mental strength required to just keep doing the act is what people don't understand, people don't see. That I just wish it could be communicated in a way where the outside world understands
No,
the strength.
I think you're so right because the emotional journey is vast and
Yes,
the tides are very high. And there have been moments, myself where I feel like a ship lost at sea and there is no
not
lighthouse.
alone, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel I feel like I'm up Shit's Creek.
right.
So it's like, wow, when are these emotions going to go away? Because when you talk about the physical, right? Because there's PT and there's prep sockets and fittings and learning, the secret sauce and how to get the recipe right for you and
Yeah.
your limb and how you want to function. The thing I wanted to ask you too is how far are you post-op as an amputee?
Basically October 1st, 2025 is when they cut.
Okay. Yeah. So
So
you're
as of date of filming today, what is that, 7.5 months?
Yeah, 7.5 months. And the first thing I noticed is you're standing for the interview. So explain to me how you feel right now.
Um, it's kind of interesting because typically standing is considered a power pose, right?
Well, for sure. Well, whenever I
Right?
see an amputee who's like, no, I prefer to stand, I think, well, okay, good for you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a pride thing. I think it's just, again, fully owning and being comfortable with the reality of who I am, where I am.
I mean,
And
let's just do a sidebar. Like, what's challenging you physically right now, being 7, 8 months?
I would still say it's fear of trying the next thing.
Yeah, unknowns.
Yeah. The unknowns. it's interesting because it's like I know I can do stuff and I know I need to do it, but then it's the resistance that you feel, kind of like the War of Art book. You always feel the resistance, and you need to push through it. I'm like, I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge right now. It's the dance of knowing, dude, like I just got a blade set up, right?
Yeah.
And a free swing knee. So I'm a left knee disarticulate, so I still have full femur. Great, all fine and dandy, but like I haven't done a lot of time on that blade. And I want to though, but I haven't. And it's
Yeah.
because what we do as humans, like we're all guilty of it. We fall back into what feels comfortable, what's easy.
Yeah. And I just want to, and I'm not necessarily trying to coach you here. It's for where you are in the process. You're doing extraordinarily well. And I
Thank you. I
hope that
appreciate that.
your team is telling you that because I do my fair share of interactions with newer amputees. And Dave, it takes a while before there's even a mild level of confidence build and people really start to feel like they're getting their sea legs. And
Yeah.
it's it's a real process. And for me personally, if someone were to say, well, when did you feel like you were normal? And I know that's a loose term because everyone uses it
Yeah.
differently, but I didn't really possess a what I would call confidence to do and try new things or things that I didn't think I could do until I was at least 2 years in.
2 years. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years was it was kind of a milestone, sort of a breakthrough moment where I finally started to have, and we've all been there when we have, two legs, when you finally have that like skip in your step and
We
you
almost forget,
exactly,
right?
because
Yeah.
there's that period of time where every single micro move is planned. Every
Yeah.
single step, every single terrain choice, every curb, every single uh, it could be a change from carpeting to tile. E- Everything is planned out, and
Yeah.
the funny thing that I recognize too nowadays, because I don't have as many of those moments, is I was so conscious and obsessed. I was always scanning the room, scanning the
Yeah.
room, scanning the room. What's coming?
It's
What's
interesting
coming?
you say that because I thinking about it, I that is exactly,
Yeah.
that is my same MO,
Yeah.
and I don't even realize I'm doing it, but
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it
And
it
people would
makes
say to
sense,
me, like, you're always looking down. And I'm like, well, I have to know what's coming at me
right? Yeah.
because when you're, baby bird, new amputee, a pebble could literally send you to the ground. I mean, one slight, and I'm going
One
down.
tiny misstep, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, obviously I kudos in terms of where you're at in this moment. Feeling
Thank
that
you.
way is in my opinion, you know, incredibly normal to be at that, hesitation phase. And
Yeah.
I remember specifically the first time I love bike riding, cycling. And
Oh.
I remember the first time I got back on a bike
Oh, I
since my
bet that felt great.
oh man, since my amputation. And
Yeah.
so if you can imagine. So I've got the bike leaning against my car, okay? Because
Okay.
the big
The side
hump,
of the bike.
bingo. The big hump for
Okay.
me was mount and dismount. I wasn't so much nervous about pedaling because I had sat on a stationary bike in the gym and I'm like, okay, I've got this down, right? But a,
Right.
but a stationary bike doesn't require a whole lot of balance.
Oh, it's not the same thing, sir.
And getting on a stationary bike, is really safe because it doesn't wobble, it doesn't do anything. It's a stationary figure, right? So I've got the
Yeah.
bike, the handlebars leaned up against the car, and I'm clumsy, you know, getting on, mounting, this bicycle, and literally, and I shit you not, my hands are shaking, like
Even though you're stabilized on the side of
even
the
though I'm
car.
stabilized. Exactly.
That's fun.
My hands are shaking, and I look at my hands and I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, what's happening right now? I've done, huge tours, to, long distances, and I'm literally, my hands are shaking, and it was that push through, right? Where you
Yeah.
go 3, 2, 1, just go. Just go,
Yeah.
right? You know, pedal starts,
Fall flat on your face.
fortunately, no.
Oh, good.
you're, you're like, yeah, and then you crashed into a wall. So it was, pedals start, their first revolution, and
Yeah.
wind. You can feel that familiar sensation of, wind against your skin, and I'm telling
Mm.
you, like, everything made sense in the universe in that moment.
So that
And
was the moment you were describing about the 2 years out,
yeah,
like, where it finally was? Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Where I thought, I have to get back to the business of life. I
Right?
have to get back to doing and not just observing anymore. I've done the work.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready. And you're right. I could have fell. I could have just completely toppled over. And there had been moments where I missed a pedal, it spun around, slammed my good shin that's still
Get your
there.
recognition.
Oh
You're like,
yeah, and
"Ah."
gave me a nice laceration on my shin, and things like that happened, and I had those really, like, oops kind of moments, but it really is overcoming those fears and just trying. Just you got to try.
Yeah, listening to you, talk about that now, the more that I think about it, I would say I'm not sure if you're familiar with Adaptive Training Foundation in, Dallas, Texas, and
No,
Frisco.
no, tell me about it.
Um, so it's primarily military vet-based program, but it's for adaptive athletes, and, it's this just, like, massive, CrossFit style gym, and they have programs where they'll basically, sponsor a certain number of adaptive athletes or aspiring adaptive athletes and have them come in and go through a 5-day boot camp or their full program. I think it's 8 weeks where you like live there in the dorm and all that kind of stuff. So I applied to it because I'm a civilian. I didn't think I was going to get in. I didn't have time to go do a full 8-week program, but I applied for their 5-week hyper camp and got accepted. And that was about it's almost 2 months ago. And I would say that's probably the best decision that I made because I forced myself into a small community where there was structured support and I knew I wasn't alone. But it was a place where I knew I was going to be pushed out of my comfort zone, and boy was I. Um, I would say that camp at one point in the middle of it, I was so scared of falling. I mean, they're doing lateral drills, they're doing, foot shuffle work, pushing, the tank with all of the 45-pound plates on it.
Yeah,
Like they're doing everything there. And it was the moment where I basically got called out by the trainer. He's like, "What are you scared of falling? Just do it. If you fall, you're gonna get up anyway." And I remember just like pushing myself to exhaustion, and it was the first time that I fell. And it was like I was so scared of falling, which is silly because like what's the worst that could happen,
I
right?
know.
Especially if my prosthetic is on.
Yeah,
It's not like I'm falling on my stump, right?
yeah,
And I remember falling and then getting back up, and everybody's clapping because it's like you're celebrating overcoming the limiting belief, the breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I would say when I stood back up, I think that was the moment, like your bike moment. Whereas like I didn't do anything crazy or special. I'm a master certified scuba diver. Like I didn't go scuba diving, right?
Yeah. I
I didn't
know.
do double under jump ropes again. It was just falling and being like, cool, I'm good, and get back up.
Yeah.
But I remember getting back up, it was just a point of exhaustion. And I was standing and I basically, it's like the runner's high. You can't feel either of your legs.
Yeah.
And I remember standing and being like, oh, wait, oh, I have a prosthetic on. But it felt like old me again, where it was just normal
Yeah.
legs.
And I
Yeah.
think what you're describing over time and with the dedication and the discipline that's already part of your, circuitry, in the essence of who you are, I think that those moments start to multiply. They start to accelerate.
Yeah. They
And
start to stack on. Right.
bingo. And as you keep putting yourself into those uncomfortable spaces, that's
Mhm.
when your baseline keeps moving up and up and up. And suddenly you have a day, because I always used to gauge it by how often am I aware of my prosthesis? How often is it sort of chiming
Yeah.
in my head going, "Hey, I'm down here. Just so you know, I'm still down here. Hey, when you turn that corner, I'm down here. You know that, right?" And at what
The
point does it become, "Man, I just had a day. I didn't I actually didn't think about my leg once today."
where you forget about it.
You
Yeah.
forget about it. And
Yeah. And that's been happening more and more for me. It's an interesting phenomena when you really think about it
that's
because
awesome to hear given where you're at in the timeline, because I'm
oh,
telling
yeah.
you, there are amputees that, will say, "I'm 3 years in and I still can't don a prosthesis longer than like a couple hours and
Mm.
I'm done," you know?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that isn't just because of like the mindset. Hopefully it's other thing like unavailable resources, bad fitting socket. But if it is mindset, it breaks my heart to hear that.
Yeah, and
You
to
know?
be honest, when I've, run my own little, well, let me diagnose that with you. Um, it usually is a combination of everything you just described. So
Yeah,
it might be access to the right equipment. It
comorbidity, age, right?
Yes, it
Diabetes.
might be comorbidities. It might be, and it might be tough love where you say, this is a mindset issue and
Yeah,
you're creating a block for yourself. And there's nothing that breaks my heart more is when I talk to someone and they're like, well, yeah, I've been an amputee for 20 years and, I have a prosthesis, but I don't wear it. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
where is the prosthesis? Well, it's been in my closet for about 12 years.
Jeez.
I know.
I couldn't.
I know.
Yeah, it breaks my
I know. It
mm,
does for me too. And I see that as almost like emergent where I go, okay, we got to talk about this one. And
yeah,
I want to see people thriving. I want to see them moving. And if you're not ready, to wear your leg, what can we do? What interventions can be performed in this moment to get you moving, mobile, at least get you to a point where you're feeling your body again? And that might be chair
right.
aerobics. That might just be like you need to get on a program where you're just moving again. And we're not even going to
Yeah,
talk about the prosthesis right now. Okay. Let's just table that. And we're going to talk about what can be done to get you into just a more active mindset where this becomes part of your day.
yeah,
Um, because I spent because I was in wound care as a new amputee, poor fitting socket, pressure
Okay.
wound, pressure wound, and then went into wound care. So I struggled even to don a prep. I
Wow.
wasn't even like ready for like my first real prosthesis. And then once I was ready, I could only tolerate an adjustable because my fluid shift
Oh,
was like crazy spectrum, right? It would just swing
yeah.
all over the place. And I mean,
Okay.
it took a good gosh, I want to say it took 5 years before I could don a rigid socket all day and not be bothered by it. Where I could put it on in the morning. Um, there could be maybe possibly a very, very minor, sock change or something, just due to like
Right.
perspiration or, just maybe like a ripple in the fit or something. But for
Yeah.
the most part, I was good to go for an entire day. And for me, and
That's a
probably,
training for 5 years.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so a lot of my early amputee life was a Martin Bionic socket, which I was constantly adjusting. So
Yeah.
I
Always having, right?
yeah, I was that guy that was always clicking, right? So I would sit in a chair and it'd be like click, 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 and then I'd get back up, click, 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 click,
I
click.
think I just got out of the constantly adjusting phase. So
Yeah, you're moving
I,
fast, and that's
well, I give a lot of credit to my leg dealer, right? So my prosthetic clinician, I call him my leg dealer. He's incredible guy because I don't know if it's just because I'm involved with other founders and we're building a healthcare access company for amputees, right? Or just because he kind of relates to me psychology wise, like we're
yeah.
both drivers, business builders type mentality, but he's done everything he can to cut around insurance issues or insurance holdbacks and like get me loaner equipment and just give me every connection and available resource to excel as fast as possible. So
Seems to be
I would say
working.
if it wasn't for him, I probably would be, another 4 months, 5 months behind where I am currently. Yeah.
So what would you say is on the bucket list right now?
Okay. So bucket list for what do I want to go do
Well,
life
I mean,
wise?
when you think about all the things that you were engaging physically, just as a person, I always thought to myself, well, obviously I got to get back to work. I have to earn a living. Um,
Right.
and then followed by, well, all the things that I love, which tend to revolve around some level of physical activity.
Hmm.
I, I, I have to adapt. I have to manage the workarounds. Because
Right.
if someone says I'm going to get back on a bike, if someone says, I'm going to get back in the gym, if someone says I want to run a 5K, whatever that is that you're looking to revisit or reclaim, it's not necessarily that you're trying to get that part of you back as it
No.
is learning how to do what you love in a different way,
Yeah.
you
So like I
know?
can still do it. It's just going to look different or it might take longer. Okay. I understand your question. There's a couple of different things. I mean, my first mindset wise, when I go into it, I'm like, there's things that I didn't do before that I always wanted to do, right? So, like, what better way to do them now since I never did it before and I have nothing to compare it to than to just sign up for opportunities to do it? So there's one. So I'm currently looking for all kinds of different things to sign up for. I've hiked and climbed mountains before. I've always enjoyed hiking. So I signed up for a 14,000-foot Colorado adaptive athlete mountain hike.
When is that
And I'm
happening, by
trying
the
to
way?
do it in July. July 13th through the 17th.
Oh my god.
So that's next on my docket.
That's ambitious.
I love scuba diving, right? So I currently trying to figure out, where to go, what organization, what group of, adaptive athletes, if there are any out there that you know of. We talk about it after, but I'd be looking to do scuba diving next. And then there's what is it? Challenge the Athlete Foundation, CAF, has a running clinic that I'm going to go do in August in Dallas,
Wow.
Texas. So those are like the next things. I was thinking about doing amp camp in Tenerife.
With
I think
good old
Ben,
Ben, Ben Lovell.
yeah, Ben does that. So I might sign up for that.
Wow.
So I'm not sure yet, but I would say the answer to the question is I don't really know what I'm going to love pouring into until I try stuff. And I'd say
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now is the try stuff phase.
How does your family feel about what I perceive as a very ambitious kind of bucket list?
um, at this point, they don't argue.
Are they
Just
like
like,
are they
when's the
like,
next thing you got
"Honey."
booked for training? Where is it at? Oh, one other thing I love, always loved it before, EDM music. Okay,
Oh, really?
so melodic bass, if you're familiar with artists like Illenium,
I
he
mean, I
has a
know what
resident
EDM is,
at the
but I'm not
school.
necessarily tapped into that world, so you're gonna
Okay,
have to
where it's like,
explain it to me.
and a lot of
Yeah,
jumping
I know
and
what it is,
lasers
yeah.
and stuff. So since all this has happened, I haven't gone to any concert, which breaks my heart because I come alive with the music and in that environment. So I booked to go to the Sphere in Vegas 2 weeks from now, July 3rd. I'm going to go to his concert, but again, test the waters. It's like assigned seating and stand section, or not the standing section. It's the assigned seating balcony part. So like
Yeah.
I'll be in the environment, I'll be able to test it out, I'll be able to enjoy myself, but like not throw myself in the deep end water with the sharks, right? Yeah,
Yeah, you won't be in the mosh pit. So, I think that the way you're approaching this, is just, and I tend to hesitate when I use the word inspiring because it's kinda like a bad word in the amputee community.
oh geez,
Um, it's really extraordinary to me that you, at such an early phase of this journey, you're really embracing it, and you're really seeking opportunities to weigh and evaluate where your place is gonna be in all of this, and you're willing to
yeah,
try, which is such a huge step forward because the unwillingness to try is a more common theme. Like, I can't
yeah,
do that anymore. I don't know how I would do that. I don't know how I would get access. I don't know how to get in the building. I don't know if it's going to be lots of stairs. Do they have an elevator? Like, how much walking am I going to have to do from the car to my seat? All of the roadblocks that I hear people create in these situations,
yeah.
right? And you
Right.
seem to be somewhat adventurous in that I need to put
Thank
myself
you.
out there.
That,
Yeah, I need to put myself out there. And I think
Rick, I would say
that's,
it's a philosophy thing that never really fully clicked for me until after all this happened. You know, the age old mantra people always say, well, everything happens for a reason, you know? And I'm of
yeah,
that
they do.
camp or have been of that camp. But when this happened, I got hit with the deadliest, most aggressive, rarest form of flesh eating bacteria in the world. There's other bacteria that turn into flesh eating bacteria. Clostridium septicum, the absolute rarest, most aggressive one. Like, why, how, right? So everything happens for a reason. I'm laying in a hospital bed trying to figure out, well, why?
Yeah,
Why did this happen? Why me? Why now? Which creates inaction, right? Because I'm so stuck on the why that I can't just figure out what's the next step to take to move forward.
yeah,
So I have a saying now, and I don't know if I don't think I made this up. I'm sure other people have said it at other points in time. But instead of everything happens for a reason, It's everything happens exactly the way that it should when it should,
Yeah.
right? And so for me to trust that everything's going to happen the way that it should when it should, now it frees me to just be able to take the next step and trust that regardless of what happens, I have everything I need because of who I am to be able to figure it out
Yeah.
because I'm not alone,
Yeah.
right? So, and then in that philosophy, I trust that there is support, creator, right? I'm not alone, but I don't need to know the why right now. So, to your point of like being scared and to take the next step or put myself in the situation to try it, I set zero expectation going into it other than I'm going to put myself in the environment to try it. And everything that should happen will happen when it needs to happen
Yeah.
because I'll figure it out while I'm there, right? What's the worst
Yeah.
that could happen? I already died 3 times.
I mean, if
Right?
we're playing the odds, I mean,
I joke, I'm like, there's enough bad stuff that happened to me where the next 3 generations of my entire family lineage, they're good. They got all good luck coming to them.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
You fell on the sword for everyone. You know, I
yes.
got that out of the way for everybody. We're all good. No one needs to worry now. But yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that authenticity and how
Oh, thank you.
offering you are about what this journey has meant for you and your
Yeah.
enthusiasm about the future. And so many people in this community need to hear this story because where you are in the process and how you're approaching it as generally what's considered a very new amputee is pretty extraordinary. And I'm glad that this is something that people are going to be able to draw energy from and light and
Oh, thanks.
see as a beacon in their own, lives. And all I can say is I will certainly be following your journey and what happens next. And what my hope ultimately is that we're going to sit down again in the future and we're going to sort of examine, you know, okay, where are we now? And
Okay.
that's such a great,
I am all for that.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
like case study, because you're sort of setting the stage for a lot of really just incredible development and
Mm,
yeah, to me it's all about that energy and those are the things that I tend to feed off of when I talk to
right.
people um because I always look at it this way. I tend to simplify and break people into two groups, and I always say, you know what? There's batteries and there's vacuums. Some
I
people,
haven't heard that one before.
yeah, some people are batteries, and when we interact, we feel energized, right? We
Okay.
feel like, man, the world is full of possibility. And unfortunately, some people, they are vacuums. And I talk to this person for 10 minutes and I am exhausted.
Yeah.
I just want to
I know what you're talking
crawl into a cave and just be like, I
Yeah.
just can't do it. And you, sir, are definitely a battery, very much
Oh,
so.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You
And
are as well.
oh, I appreciate that too. So that's going to wrap it up for us. I appreciate you taking the time today. Um, Dr. David Hausman, if someone wants to reach out to you for
Yeah.
any kind of guidance, any kind of tips and tricks, any kind of resources, I know that you're also starting to move into some initiatives about accessibility and prosthetics and things of that nature.
Yeah.
What's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, easiest way is going to be my handle on Instagram. It's the adapted doc, all one word. Um, or you can go to ampuhealth.com. That's the company that me, another amputee, and another founder here in Nashville, Tennessee, are on a mission to build. That's prosthetic socket and component access system that does not require insurance. Um, so either of those would be, best approach, but probably the easiest, just Instagram at the adapted doc.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Dave. I appreciate you being here. Fantastic episode. My name is Rick Bonkowski. This is the Amped Up to 11 podcast, and I want to wish everyone health and happiness, and we'll see you next time.